No alarms were sounded. No warnings were written. By sunrise, an entire town no longer existed. Homes stood open. Streets were silent. People were simply gone. In the mid-1800s, the American frontier was still shifting westward. Railroads cut through forests and plains. Rivers were lifelines. Small towns formed quickly around mills, crossings, and trade routes. Many of them were never meant to last. The town stood near a river bend in the interior United States. It was not large. A few dozen wooden buildings. A main street of dirt and packed mud. A church. A general store. A schoolhouse. Most residents were families drawn by work and land. Farmers. Laborers. Craftsmen. They lived close to the river, because the river meant transport, water, and survival. Life in the town followed predictable rhythms. Mornings began early. Smoke rose from chimneys before sunrise. Children walked to school. Wagons moved grain and timber. Sundays were quiet. Evenings were marked by lantern light and low voices. But the town had weaknesses. The river flooded often. The soil shifted. Records show repairs to docks and roads every spring. Still, the settlement endured. People adapted. They always did. By the 1870s, change was approaching. A new railroad line was planned several miles away. Trade routes shifted. River traffic declined. The town's importance began to fade. Some families left. Others stayed, believing the town would survive as it always had. There were also rumors. Not dramatic ones. Practical concerns. Talk of unstable ground near the riverbank. Cracks in foundations. Cellars that filled with water overnight. Livestock refusing to enter certain fields. These signs were noticed, then ignored. Local officials recorded nothing unusual. Newspapers mentioned only seasonal flooding. No warnings were issued. No evacuations planned. On the evening before the disappearance, witnesses in nearby settlements reported nothing remarkable. Lanterns were visible in the town. Smoke rose from chimneys. The town appeared normal. Inside the settlement, families prepared for sleep. Doors were locked. Fires were banked. Animals were secured. No one expected this night to be different from any other. There was no recorded storm. No battle. No official disaster notice. Yet before dawn, something changed. By morning, the town would no longer function as a town. It would not wake up. It would not recover. It would vanish. The first people to notice were travelers. A merchant wagon approached the town just after sunrise. From a distance, the buildings were still standing. Smoke no longer rose from chimneys, but that was not unusual for early morning. As the wagon entered the main street, silence became obvious. No voices. No animals. No movement. Doors were open. Some hung from broken hinges. Inside homes, belongings remained. Tables were set. Beds were unmade. Food sat untouched. Nothing suggested a planned departure. The church was empty. The schoolhouse was abandoned. The general store still held goods. The cash drawer was open. No money was taken. Livestock was missing. Horses. Cattle. Chickens. Gone. No signs of violence were found. No blood. No broken weapons. No fire damage. No collapsed buildings. Authorities from a nearby county arrived days later. They documented the scene. They searched the riverbanks. They found no bodies. No mass graves. No tracks leading away in large numbers. Some speculated a flood. But the river showed no evidence of recent surge. The water level was normal. The banks intact. Others suggested a sudden evacuation. But there were no wagons missing. No organized trail. No destination. Theories multiplied quietly. Disease. Panic. A secret relocation. None were supported by evidence. Over time, the investigation slowed. The town had little political importance. No influential families. No major industry. Interest faded. Buildings deteriorated quickly. Roofs collapsed. Floors rotted. Nature reclaimed the streets. Within years, trees grew through foundations. Maps were updated. The town's name was removed. New routes avoided the area. Former residents were never conclusively identified elsewhere. Census records showed gaps. Entire family names ended abruptly. The land itself became unstable. Sections near the river sank gradually. Some structures tilted, then disappeared into the ground. Others were dismantled for materials by passers-by. By the end of the century, little remained. Just fragments of stone. Broken fence posts. Faint outlines beneath the soil. No memorial was built. No marker placed. The town existed only in scattered records. And then not even there. Years later, a survey team returned to the area. Their task was unrelated. They were mapping land for future development. Old documents mentioned a settlement. The team expected ruins. They found almost nothing. The ground near the river was uneven. Sunken. Hollow in places. Probing revealed collapsed spaces below the surface. Empty. Deep. Geologists later described the soil as unstable. Prone to sudden shifts. Underground erosion. Sinkholes forming without warning. It became clear that the town had been built on fragile ground. Slowly weakened over decades. One failure could trigger another. The most likely scenario emerged quietly. Not as a headline. Not as a conclusion. Just as an explanation. During the night, the ground beneath the town began to fail. Sections collapsed inward. Buildings tilted. Streets cracked. Panic followed. People fled in darkness. Toward higher ground. Toward the riverbanks. Toward the surrounding wilderness. They took animals if they could. They left possessions behind. There was no time. Some areas may have sunk completely. Others partially. Confusion would have been total. Why no bodies were found remains uncertain. The terrain could have swallowed them. Or the survivors scattered, never to return. No written accounts survived. No letters. No diaries. The event was too small to become legend. Too quiet to become history. And so the town did not end with destruction. It ended with absence. In the years that followed, the town did not collapse all at once in memory. It faded slowly, almost politely, as if asking no one to notice its absence. Travelers stopped passing through the area. Roads were redirected. New settlements formed closer to the railroad and farther from the river. What had once been a place of routine and repetition became a blank space between destinations. Records grew thinner with time. A name that appeared once in a ledger never appeared again. Census lines ended without explanation. Property claims were left unresolved, then quietly abandoned. No formal report ever closed the matter. There was nothing definitive to conclude. Nature worked without urgency. Wood softened and broke apart. Roofs gave way under snow and rain. Walls leaned and finally collapsed. The river continued its course, indifferent to what had once depended on it. Soil shifted. Ground settled. What had been streets became uneven stretches of earth. Children born in nearby towns heard vague references from older generations. A place that used to be there. A town that did not last. Details were never clear, and no one insisted on remembering them. Stories without anchors rarely survive. By the early 20th century, even curiosity disappeared. The land was surveyed and measured again. Its past was irrelevant to its future. There were no markers to suggest that lives had once filled that space with movement and sound. No signposts. No warnings. No acknowledgments. Those who might have survived the night were never traced as a group. If they spoke of what happened, their words were never preserved. If they chose silence, it worked. History did not press them for answers. What remained was not a mystery in the dramatic sense. There were no legends passed down with certainty. No dramatic retellings repeated across generations. The town did not become a cautionary tale or a symbol. It simply stopped being mentioned. The absence became normal. Grass grew where footsteps had worn the ground flat. Trees rose where buildings once stood. Seasons passed without interruption. Snow fell and melted. Wind crossed the land without resistance. Nothing marked the spot as significant. Over time, the idea of the town became less real than the land itself. Maps showed nothing. Documents referred to nothing. Memory held nothing firmly enough to protect it from erasure. This is how the town truly vanished. Not in the night when people fled, but in the decades that followed, when no one returned. There was no ceremony for its end. No recognition of loss. The place was not destroyed by force or fire, but by neglect and forgetting. It slipped out of history without protest. Today, standing there would reveal very little. The ground gives no clear answers. The silence offers no explanation. The past remains buried, not because it was hidden deliberately, but because it was allowed to disappear. The town became an absence that required no explanation. And that absence endured. These stories are rarely told. Subscribe if you want to hear the next one.